We knew this day was coming. We just thought maybe the Lions would have a Super Bowl before it did. Now that both coordinators have jumped ship, have the Super Bowl chances dimmed for Detroit.
Vrabel and McDaniels headed back to New England. Can this pair save the sunken ship that has become the New England Patriots?
It's not just head coaches, but coordinators changing too. Another homecoming, this one to the West Coast, for someone finally free of the Jets' toxicity.
And guess who's back? Pete Carroll. Not in Seattle, but he's heading to the Raiders. Can he bring the Raiders to some respectability in the AFC?
We got a couple weeks before the Super Bowl, so let's catch you up on the NFL coaching carousel with a very special rant by yours truly on Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee.
Well, the Super Bowl is set. Now it's the fun. Coaches, where are they going? Who's going where? Who's getting hired? Who's coming back from the dead? And who's just being shisty? Nutmeg, what's going on?
There's Shiesty. And maybe I shouldn't have said yours truly. I should have said the show's namesake to be grammatically accurate.
Fine, it works. It works out. But yeah, some interesting movement here in the coaching ranks.
Yeah. And the one, of course, that hasn't been filled, a team you always love to poke a little bit fun at, and that is the New Orleans Saints. Why is this the one job that is still open, and why does no one want to touch this with a 10-foot pole?
Because it's horrible. Really, look who wants that? Like, let's see. You're in salary cap hell. That roster is aged. It's decent. It's not really great. Like there's nothing appealing. Now, if you're desperate to be a head coach, okay, you might take it just so you can get back in the league. But anyone worth their salt isn't taking this job until A, they're out of cap hell, and B, there's some talent on that team.
One may think that that statement could apply to Mike McCarthy, who might just want to keep the momentum going after being excused, for lack of a better word, from the Cowboys. But even McCarthy's like, nah, I'll take a pass.
He's a smart man. So for all of us who dumped on him this year, it's probably the smartest move he made. Take a year off and see what's going to happen next, because I'm sure there'll be some quality jobs available next year for sure. Giants
Yeah,
probably, like the Giants.
maybe Buffalo.
There you go. Hey, maybe Jacksonville. You never know how bad that's going to turn out.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that momentarily. Don't you worry.
Uh, you
Yeah,
know,
it's fun. It's just funny how someone who aside from his one Super Bowl with uh, Aaron Rodgers, without all the push and home field behind him, so not a lot of legacy past that, and he just kind of said, "Yeah, I'll take a year off."
yeah, why not? He's still a Super Bowl winning coach. He's solid. It's not like he's a bad coach. I think he sometimes gets a bad rap. He took Dallas to what 3 straight years at 12-5. So it wasn't like they were horrible. They just couldn't get over the edge, over the hump.
Yeah.
But that couldn't, there's a lot of that, and a lot of that was Jerry Jones's fault. So take a year off, see what the landscape shows at the end of next year, and there you go.
Now, as far as people that could or maybe should pass on the Saints. The rumor lately is Kellen Moore, the Eagles offense coordinator. He's had 2 interviews with the Saints, and this is a situation where you're like, Kellen Moore, maybe this is a situation where you probably just should pass. Like we always said, like, oh, Kellen Moore is always getting passed up. He's always getting passed up. I don't think you want this one. You got it nice in Philly. You might get a Super Bowl. It's easy street with Saquon Barkley. Just chill. Just chill in Philly.
Take another year. Like if you really look at it, for what he runs offensively, he doesn't have those parts in New Orleans. So it's going to be a mess. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, if you think about it, the quarterback situation is kind of murky. Yeah, you have Carr, but how much time does he have really left? Can he do what you want him to do in your offense? Kamara, a couple
Uh,
years left at best. Unfortunately, Chris Olave has had problems with concussions. You've got some speed at wide receiver, but not real sure hands. Oh, sorry, you have MVS. I apologize. You have
oh,
incredible talent there, MVS.
those three catches a year are absolutely game defining. But other than that,
Exactly. So and your defense is getting long in the tooth. You've got a couple decent guys at linebacker, but your secondary is Cam Jordan is just annoying as all. So, but hey, if you really are that desperate for a job, then hey, take it. But I'm honestly, there's not much there.
and that's a good word for it. Like take a page out of Ben Johnson's book. Don't be desperate for a job. Wait for a good one to come up.
Yeah, like why? Why force it to just so you could say I'm a head coach? That it doesn't. You want to fall into a situation where you can have success. Where
Hmm.
let's say you can't get the coordinators you want, or something of that nature. If you have the talent there, if you can eke out your first year, let's say the team the year before was 7-10. If you could turn them to 9-8 or whatever, you're better. You came in, did your job, and then you build from there. But if you want to take a leaking ship, then hey, go ahead, enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Ben Johnson, he very much did play his card and wait out for the perfect job. But we'll take a little bit of a holistic approach first. The Lions are repeating the script from the Eagles from a couple of years ago, where Philly goes to the Super Bowl, and Nick Sirianni loses both his coordinators, but at least they got that Super Bowl appearance out of it. They didn't win, obviously, but at least they got there. The Lions haven't even gotten to the Super Bowl, and the Willie won't he discussion for the last few years of Ben Johnson, and then as time went along, Aaron Glenn as well. Now they're both gone. And just first of all, from the Lions' perspective, is this a closing of the window for their chances at a Super Bowl?
They've got talent. The talent didn't leave. Yes, the coordinators are gone. I'm assuming that they're probably going to look within. I'm sure they feel that they've got the guys there that can kind of step in and take over. That's what it's probably going to be because we haven't heard anything about them really looking elsewhere. So at the end of the day, the talent's still there. These guys know the playbooks. I'm sure it's going to be basically the same things on both sides of the ball. For the Lions, the problem honestly wasn't the offense; it was the defense and the
Yeah,
health. So they're going to work on that. Probably, pick up some guys maybe in free agency and go all in. This is probably the year they're going to have to go all in. This is going to probably be an all or nothing year for the Lions, but I think they've got enough talent where yeah, Ben Johnson's not there, but his understudy can probably carry him on.
and like you touched on, defensive health more than defensive ability because they certainly did their share part in amassing up talent that they just couldn't keep any of them on the field.
Yeah, but they are going to have some questions. Carlton Davis is a free agent this year, so the question is, are they going to re-sign him? They're like I said, they're probably going to open up the wallet a little bit and look and see who's available and load up and go all in. This is probably the best chance to do it. So if you want to win it, this is their year. Because after this year, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be as upper echelon as they are now because you've got other teams that are coming up that are going to be younger that are starting to really gather that talent. Chicago being one of them. So it's this next year is probably all or nothing for them.
And hopefully Terry and Arnold can avoid all the penalty flags for next year.
Yeah, hopefully, but
Do you think, based on the talent in Detroit, are they in a better position to adjust to new voices than Philadelphia was a couple years ago?
yeah, because everyone knew that there were issues in the locker room. There was the Sirianni, and Jalen issue and stuff. There's a lot more ego in Philly It seems like, Detroit is, they're harmonious. They're, one voice, one guy, we're one team. That's it. We don't care who's successful. We just want to win because of how long it's been since they've won.
Mhm.
So they latched onto that, that mantra from Dan Campbell and ran with it. In Philly, they had success, and it's kind of, you got a lot of alphas on that team. And it was getting to the point where, guys like, Lane Johnson and, Jason Kelsey couldn't control it. Those were, the guys, those were the captains. Those were the guys who kind of kept everything to a simmer. And then after that, things just got hectic. So I
They
think,
retired.
yeah, they retired. Exactly. But no, I think the Lions will be able to handle it. Those guys play for each other. There's no real ego on that team, so I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah, a little bit more of a veteran core and much more mature.
Yeah.
Um, so then going into where those coordinators landed, we'll start with Ben Johnson first. He goes to Chicago, and he definitely,
Mhm.
like I say, he definitely played his card better. Well, not necessarily better, but definitely played his card to kind of just wait this out because I
Mhm.
can't think of a head coaching opening this year that that has a better nucleus for an offensive genius to toy with in the sandbox.
No, it's a perfect situation. You've got your franchise quarterback. The guy's got tools. You just, of course, what we're going to see is not, and Ben Johnson said this, it's not going to be he's bringing a playbook, dropping it down, and it's going to be Lions 2.0. That offense is going to cater to what Caleb does. So that offense is going to be different than what you saw in Detroit because Jared Goff can't move around like Caleb. So it's not
Yeah.
going to be, Caleb sitting in the pocket and that's it. This offense, I think you're going to see Caleb rolling out. I think you're going to see a lot of exciting stuff out of that. So I think the offense is going to be solid. The defense, I think, has parts. I think the defense was solid. Um, the big question is, are they going to go, in free agency, kind of pick up some parts to shore up the defense a bit? It'll be interesting to see what they do. But no, I think with what they have there, they can be really good. They could. I don't want to say win the division. I don't know if it's that much of a leap, but they could
Yeah.
definitely be in it week 15, week 16 kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then I mean Minnesota, barring whatever they do at quarterback, and the Packers are still there if they can rebound from their injuries, and of course the Lions. So
Well,
the rise would be a bit of a surprise if anything.
exactly. Well, no one thought Minnesota was going to do what they did, but that all depends on what they do with Sam Darnold. If they keep Sam Darnold, yeah, they're could be a co-favorite for that division. If they let him walk, it could be a 10-7 maybe team.
Yeah. And the thing with Chicago is like where do they focus in the draft? I think I think you're onto something with trying to address the defense and free agency and focus the draft on offensive line because their line was not very good. It was not very good last year. It wasn't very good the year before that either with Fields. Uh,
No,
so I think that's probably where to focus because they don't really need unless a franchise type of running back falls in their lap. They don't really need any offensive weapons. Ben Johnson could probably work miracles with what's there. So just beef up that offensive line to get Caleb time, uh, and just work with what's available until you figure out, okay, maybe this is an issue.
no, and you're right. Like if in the draft, one of these, young running backs, falls to them, then yeah, you got to take them. Because I think with this offense, if you can get, I'm not going to say you're going to get the next, David Montgomery or, Gibbs, but if something like that falls to you in the draft, there you go. You pay him whatever. You got 4 years with him. Right now, that would be your quarterback and your running back for at least 3 years are paid nice, and you don't have to worry about that. So then you go free agency and do whatever you need to do. The offensive line definitely is a need. If some guys fall to you in the second, third round, then there you go. That's how you shore it up. There's some guys free agency wise are a little older that look like to be available. Ronnie Staley, from Baltimore, looks like he's going to become available. if he can, he was played a full season this year. If he can give you maybe a couple years, that could work, and bring in some younger guys to learn under him. I just hate when teams bring in like the old guys on the line, and then like next thing you know, they're out for like half the season because there's a knee injury or something. All of a sudden, the wheels are falling off. Like Zach Martin, he's going to be a free agent this year. Great career in Dallas. Someone's going to overpay for him just for the name.
Yeah.
Can he stay healthy though? Like he's a guy who needs to go on a win now team, like a team that needs it now. Our window is just about to shut. That's where a guy like that would go. But I think Chicago knows right now they've got their coach. We need to do this right. We can't rush it and just pick up some hodgepodge pieces. So it'll be interesting to see.
And something you brought up about how to use Caleb. He can move, but I think that Caleb has a very substantial future with his arm just because he's got such a cannon and he's got so many weapons to take advantage of. But do you think Ben Johnson will kind of change his approach from what happened in Detroit with Goff and kind of utilize Caleb's athleticism and running ability? Or kind of saying, hey, listen, I do have a guy that can sling it. Let me see if what I'm used to, my bread and butter, will work with him.
Well, yeah, I think, you let him, he's a quarterback, you don't want to out there running around, all willy nilly, get taking unnecessary hits. I think what the offense will be, yeah. Oh, AR. I think what the offense will be is, yeah, he'll be in the pocket, but he'll have the ability to, pull out, run out of the, move out of the pocket, use that athleticism like he did at USC. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be a run first guy. I think, he'll primarily be in the pocket, but he'll have that ability to change plays. And if he feels the need to, roll out and then, do what he's got to do. I think, they may look to get a little faster at wide receiver. They've got great possession guys. They've got one burner, Dunze, but I think they might look again, to, pick up a second, speedster maybe, but we'll see what they do. But no, I think he'll be in the pocket primarily, but I think Johnson knows what he's got in the ability of Williams, and I think you'll see him moving a little bit in and out of the pocket.
Yeah. Now, where Ben Johnson made a very excellent decision in waiting it out and taking a job like the Bears, Aaron Glenn, he had head coaching prospects, but they weren't as necessarily hot on the table as Ben Johnson's were. They kind of rose to being he kind of rose to being a hot head coaching prospect, but he chose to go to the Jets, a little bit of a homecoming in his own right as he played for a number of years there. And I mean, I guess he has a soft spot for them, being that he played there. But was it maybe an ill decision based on the mess that the Jets are?
I guess it's one of those things where, yeah, like you said, it's a homecoming. He probably feels, okay, I'm coming. I'm going to go home. Let's see if I can fix this mess. They're not horrible. Like defensively, they're not. Like they're not defensively, they're a solid unit when they play well. They've got the pieces. The question is what's your quarterback going to do? Who's going to be your coordinator? Like there's a lot of internal kind of stuff. The first question is what's your quarterback situation? Once that's handled, then I think you can kind of get a bit of a clearer picture because there's talent on both sides of the ball. You just need someone who can actually throw the ball.
Do you think this is like, I don't know if blank check's the right word, but kind of like an excuse, for lack of a better word, for with a new coach and a new regime to try to move on from Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think what'll happen is if Aaron's like, oh, I want to come back, they're going to say, okay, well, here's the deal. We'll bring you back. We're going to, basically probably chop up that contract and figure out so you're not totally killing us. They're going to draft a young guy, and Aaron's going to have to be the mentor that he didn't get when he was in Green Bay because everybody knows that Brett Favre was like, no, not my job to, let him sit and watch. I'm not that mentor kind of guy. So I think it's a situation where, Aaron's going to have to say, if I want to play here in New York, I'm going to have to be that guy who's teaching that kid the future. Or who knows, maybe he says, no, I don't want to do that. And a team like team like the Raiders says, hey, we're rebuilding. I just need somebody here who can kind of, sling the ball a little bit. We still think you got like a year in the tank. We'll see what happens.
Be funny. I think we mentioned a couple of times during the year. It'd be funny if Adams goes from the Raiders to the Jets, and then Rodgers goes back to the Jets, and Adams like, "What the hell? I could just waited for you."
He's like, you left me again, and now you're gonna have to sit there. So that's what happens when you're not happy. So, but no, I don't think it was a bad choice. I'm sure they're gonna, kind of open the wallets for him, and kind of he's gonna be the golden boy for a bit. He's just gonna have to get in there and get that culture straight. That's gonna be the issue. It's more of a culture thing with the Jets.
Yeah, and he is a defensive guy, and they do have a lot of talent to play with. So you could have, as long as whether it's Aaron or somebody else, as long as they have somebody serviceable at quarterback, having a new voice on a talented defense could have a Rex effect that they had from several years past, where it just elevates that unit to the point where all the offense has to do is not screw up and just be effective enough, and they'll
Yeah.
eke out wins and get into the playoffs.
Yep, exactly. It's a situation because the offense is going to be a work in progress. There's no doubt. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, if you can get us about 20 points a game, if our defense can keep it to 17, 18, like that Jets defense had in the past, they're in good shape.
Yeah, shouldn't be that hard of a task for a professional quarterback to lead three scoring drives a game.
Maybe Sam Darnold feels a little something and wants to go home too. And
More
there you go.
homecoming. Yeah.
There you go. Bring back Sam Darnold.
Yeah. So I mean, I like you said, I don't necessarily hate the move for Aaron Glenn, but it's kind of like, what was the thought process besides homecoming?
Well, if you look at the other jobs that were out there, like let's be
Yeah, that's true.
realistic. Like what else was out there? Would he have gone to the Saints?
No, yeah. No, and
Now,
especially with, we'll get to the Pats a little later on, but especially like if they had already their mind made up, it was really just the Bears job out there that was attractive. So I mean, it's conceivable that amongst all these other things, especially with the Cowboys kind of waiting a little while to make a decision, the Jets conceivably was the next best job.
well, I don't think anyone would have wanted the
Terrifying as
Cowboys. I don't think anyone would have wanted the Cowboys job anyway. Seeing what happened there this past year with McCarthy, no one wants that Cowboys job.
yeah,
No one
Jerry's
wants that.
new marionette.
Exactly. Unless you're Jerry's puppet boy, you're doomed to fail. So I wouldn't want to go there. Now, mind you, if it was another owner, that job was looking quite appealing with the talent on both sides there. I'd be good. I assume that Glenn probably would have chosen the Dallas job.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But Jerry scares him off.
Yeah. And Jerry's ego is too big for him to realize that he's the problem.
Yep. So there you go. There you go, Cowboys. Enjoy that.
Well, speaking of Jerry's world, I guess they promoted internally on this one. Brian Schottenheimer gets the nod, and I think Brian Schottenheimer, I don't think he's been a head coaching. He's been rumored to be a head coach before, but he never actually got the opportunity. Does this kind of feel like another Jason Garrett situation where, like you said, it's Jerry's puppet, and just a guy internally who's hung around long enough that would just happen to be the perfect fit, not necessarily for the Cowboys, but the perfect fit for Jerry.
All right. What's the over under on like 8 wins in Dallas? Like that's what I'm giving you because that you literally have just brought in another puppet. I don't see Brian Schottenheimer saying, you know what, Jerry, shut up, let me run my team. I don't see it. If it happens, I'd be shocked. All of America will be like, no, this feel, and yet again, it was like the running back situation, or like when you tried to pay Dak, or you paid, CD. You waited so long, and all that's left, everything dried up. Oh, look, there's Brian Schottenheimer. Let's come on, buddy. We're gonna promote you. You can go down the hall. That's your room now.
Yeah, like if you knew that, yeah, down the hall. Like if you knew you were gonna move on from McCarthy, why didn't you just do it right after the season? And maybe you could have had a shot at Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn.
Because it's Jerry Jones and Jerry does everything his way. Does he ever do anything early or on time? Nope. Does it late? That's Jerry. Jerry does everything late. And honestly, like you said, even if he had done it early enough, those guys wouldn't have taken that job. They want to, they're not going to do that. They don't want to sit there and say, okay, well, this is what Jerry wants, so I got to do it. They want to coach. They want to be the guy. That's the way it needs to be. That's fine
Yeah,
if an owner is passionate. That's fine. But at the end of the day, that's why you have a general manager who handles those situations and deals with the head coach. You sit up in the box, and when they ask you some questions, you answer them, of course. But it's not Madden. You can't sit there clicking on sticks, trading for whoever you want, and have a grand old time and play on rookie and score 80 points and think you're going to win a Super Bowl. Like that's not how this works. And
yeah,
that's how Jerry runs this team. So those guys weren't going to go. So now he's got a yes man, and we're going to see how it happens again this year.
yeah. Now, and Jerry needs to take a lesson from Robert Kraft's book because as obnoxious as Robert Kraft is, he was very hands off until he wasn't. As soon as he was hands on, it was that picking Tom or Bill, and things kind of went to crap and collapsed. But up until that point, he was very hands off. Jerry kind of needs to take a page out of that book.
Exactly. When things are going good, you don't mess with it. You don't mess with it. And like you said, yeah, that was Kraft's fault. He made the wrong choice, and now he's hoping with bringing in some other guys from the past to clean things up. But the Cowboys, unless Schottenheimer is incredible, it's just going to be the same old thing.
I do feel kind of bad for him because he kind of got a raw deal when he was with the Jets, as far as taking criticism from the media and the fans. Uh, and he's had a few other jobs around the league. I think he's a solid offensive mind. He's just kind of gotten a raw deal with a lot of probably undue criticism. I mean, the man definitely has a pedigree for coaching.
Yeah, but that's New York. When you're great, you're great. Everybody loves you. When things aren't going well, you're the first they're coming after. He wouldn't have survived in New York. To me, he doesn't seem like that guy who's going to be like, "Hey, what's going on?" He seems like he's just a, "Okay, that's cool." Very nonchalant kind of guy. Like, we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong, and week one he's tearing CD a new hole, and he's letting guys know, and they're like, "Oh, nope, don't mess with Brian. He's the man." But we
Yeah,
won't know. But again, right now, from an outsider's perspective, it looks like he picked the yes man.
yeah, and I guess you could almost look at McCarthy as kind of um a break from routine as far because he came in with a legacy. He already had a Super Bowl. Whereas in the past, you look at guys like Wade Phillips, guys like Jason Garrett. It's almost like Jerry picks the guys that don't have anywhere close to an ego the size of his. So they still live in his shadow. Whether or not even if he wasn't a puppet master, he doesn't want someone to outshine him.
Well, the thing, yeah, if Jerry wasn't like he was, I would think he would pick somebody maybe with a little juice to him. Because then at that point, Jerry's like, all right, man, as long as you're winning me games, I don't care.
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
exactly.
that's what this is about. So, Jerry will ride out on his golf cart, start training camp and, proclaim that the Cowboys are ready to go, blah, blah, blah. He won't pay, Micah Parsons till like 2 minutes before game time, and we'll just go through this again, and we're gonna see what happens. But yeah, it's a hire, and I don't know, man. Dallas is just again laughing stocks right now.
Well, someone who was a laughing stock, a team that was a laughing stock last year, brought in a coach with a lot of juice and a coach with a big ego. Much of a surprise. I think we all were pretty convinced that Pete Carroll was just going to enjoy retirement, live in the front office, make his all personnel decisions and not deal with the stresses of coaching. But sure enough, he's back, 73 years young, and he's taken the Raiders job. How did this transpire? Is this a Tom Brady effect? because I can't unless it was just one great to another. I don't know what is appealing about this job to someone like Pete Carroll.
I think Pete likes to teach. Pete is a
Yeah,
guy who likes to teach. Let's be honest. The heyday of Seattle, it wasn't like it was a lot of high profile first round picks. They were,
no,
second, thirds and stuff. And, he taught and cultivated this culture. So I think that's what Pete likes to do. And the Raiders are in desperate need of that. The last like 3 years or so have been really rough there. So basically, it's clean slate. It's basically Pete Carroll, Max Crosby, uh, and that's it, really.
yeah,
Like there's some pieces there. Jacoby Myers is a quality receiver and such, but and Brock Bowers, your
but
star.
yeah,
So you've got some pieces there. So what I think they're looking from Pete is, they're not looking for a 12-5 season. They're like, all right, let's clean this up. We're gonna have to start from scratch. Let's build the culture. And Pete is good at that. So I think that's what you're going to see out of there. You're going to see back to basics. They're going to, try to clean up the culture. It helps when you have Tom Brady in the room there, depending what quarterback they go with. It's a nice, ear to have. And we'll see what happens. I don't hate the move because the Raiders are bad. Like what else could you do?
I think the key word in your reaction is culture because that's something that not even an issue of recent times, an issue of almost the franchise's history. This team has never had a a culture, or at least a culture that's not completely tumultuous. So having someone that can bring some kind of stability to the locker room is probably the biggest selling point he brings to the table.
Yeah, no, exactly. They had their little, peaks and such through the last like 20, 30 years, but there hasn't been sustained, positivity, a sustained culture of winning. So now you're going to sit there and say, okay, Pete, what do you need? Let's turn this right. Let's look long term instead of the quick fix, because I think a lot of teams go for a quick fix so many times it just ends up turning bad. So I think the hire is solid. He's going to sit there and say, hey guys, this is what we need to do to win. You're either with us or you're not, and they're going to go from there. But solid hire.
What do you think their focus would be in the draft and free agency? Because, like you touched on earlier, he took over a Seattle franchise that had a ton of young draft pick talent, either there from the previous year and then as he himself selected them. So is he going to try to build up this defense and let the offense grow and figure out what the problems are as time progresses? Or is he going to try and build up an offense that's extremely anemic right now?
You got to get a quarterback. Like, let's be honest. Like, you need a quarterback. I'm sorry, but Aiden O'Connell isn't the guy.
I feel
He's
like
not the guy.
if I mean Uncle Rico's got a year left on his deal, and I feel like that's a guy that would really buy into the typical selling point that Pete Carroll throws out there.
Depending on what
Just
the
as a one
offense is going to be, he could be the guy. He could be a guy who's okay. It might be a situation where they look at the draft and say, well, we don't know if there's anybody out there that's really
game
really worth
changing.
taking. Exactly. There aren't many out there, so they might say, okay, you know what? Let's go elsewhere. We're going to work with what we have here. There have been whispers of Russ going to the Raiders. You know,
Well, and speaking of Russ, Seattle did pull him out of the third round, so it's not like Pete Carroll doesn't have an eye for a diamond in the rough.
yeah, so it's one of those things where, if Russ is like, yeah, I'll go there because, Pittsburgh decides, we don't know what they're going to do. If Russ goes there, if he's got a couple years left in the tank, maybe next year is where they pick a quarterback. Who knows? So the quarterback situation is going to be interesting to see. But I think right now they'll probably build and take maybe best available player and go from there. Maybe pick
Re-
up some young free agents and kind of build up that way. You got to get younger. You can't go with the old stuff.
Relive the glory days, Vegas Seahawks.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Maybe Richard Sherman's got another year in him.
Yeah. I don't think Bobby Wagner's leaving Washington anytime soon with Jaden there, but hey, I'm sure he's open for a renewed contract too.
Yeah, exactly. Jamal Adams might pop up and say, "Hey, man, my leg's good. I got another year left in me." So, no, I think these Raiders will not feel like the Seattle Seahawks, but I think he's going to bring a culture in there and slowly, bring some respectability back to this franchise.
All right, Bucks McGee, I think I got you plenty primed. I will give you the floor, sir. Tell them why you mad. Give us the story on the Jags.
Duval not okay. Okay, so I'm not a bitter individual because I went through this the year before with Dave Canales, my boy Dave Canales. Much love. You know, I have no problem with coordinators trying to find a job, trying to take that next step. It's part of the NFL. It's part of sports. That's how what happens. I have an issue though. I feel when you tell a team, okay, you know what? I'm going to stick. You're going to make me the highest paid offensive coordinator. All right, I'm staying. I'm staying. I'm taking you for your word. I believe your word is bond. Like in the movie Hook. That scene when Robin Williams and the boy are sitting on the plane, and Robin Williams is blowing off his kids because he's going off to work, and Robin Williams asks him why he's mad, and he's like, "Oh, you were supposed to hang out with me." And he said, "Well, I'm sorry I had to work, but I'll give you my word. I'll make your next game." And then the kid basically tells him, "Your word is junk." So that's basically what this was like. You sit there, you tell the Bucks, "Okay, I'm going to sign the contract Thursday. I'm coming to one Buck place. I'm signing the contract." So everyone, we're all like, "All right, he's coming back. All right, cool. There we go." So Thursday comes. They can't find the guy. The guy has disappeared, ghosted. There's rumors going around that he took his kid to Jacksonville because his kid was sick. All right, fine, whatever. It's okay. And then he calls, Todd Bowles at 5:30 and says, "Hey, I'm kind of interested in this Jacksonville job still." What? Well, what's going on here? Because Jacksonville didn't have the stones to fire their GM when they should have, and that's why supposedly other candidates didn't want to go there because of the fiasco at GM that they've had for years. All of a sudden, Shad Khan's like, "Well, we want Liam Coen, so we're going to fire this guy, and maybe he'll come back." So lo and behold, Liam Coen decides, "Okay, I want to go to Jacksonville." So they hammer out the contract. It comes out later that night that he signs with Jacksonville. People are pitchforks and fire. I'm leading the charge. I'm over there in the chats and the interwebs, saying my piece. Like I said, if you wanted to do it, then you should have just been like, "You know what? I need to see what's going to happen with this Jacksonville situation. We'll keep the contract. Let's see what happens." At that point, the Bucks can say, "You know what? Well, we're not going to wait. We need to figure this out. Let you do whatever. You got to make a choice. Don't sit there and say, 'All right, I'm going to do this,' and then all of a sudden turn tail." So when they go, 3-14 next year, I'll be happy. I'll be happy because all of a sudden, because he's there, and he's making it sound like he's this, he's that. We'll find out. We'll see what kind of head coach he's gonna be.
I know you brought up about the Jaguars GM. This guy was so miserable that nobody wanted to talk to him. They had a chance to bring in, and it was something we even talked about as a hypothetical in a previous show. They had a chance to bring in Ben Johnson because they've got all the weapons. That's an offense that he could take advantage of, and because of this GM, they lost the opportunity to hire Ben Johnson, and then they could have lost the opportunity to hire Liam Cohen. It's like, why did they stick with this guy that apparently nobody likes?
So you're telling me if Liam Cohen was like, "Nope, I'm totally not interested in the job," blows you off, this guy would still have a job. So basically, you have made an ass of your organization because
Yes.
people are sitting there looking at you saying, "Wow, that's how you do things." People are looking at Liam Cohen going, "Yeah, you want a chance to be a head coach. We get that, but there's a right way to do things. So people are going to say, okay, well, in like 2 years, are you going to bounce? Are you going to bounce? Maybe it gets too hot for you. And let's say you guys have a losing record this year, right? Are you going to stick around next year? If it starts to go bad early, you're going to run to college and say, hey, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. So, hey, it has a bad look to it. And I think for me, that's all it was. Just be straight about it. Just be straight and honest about it. You're still interested in the job. If they do this, then I'm going to go back and talk to the Jags. Okay, fine. At least we know what's going on. We may not like it as fans, but at least you were honest. You look shady, and yeah, now you're kind of a suspect individual.
Well, Bucks McGee, I proudly welcome you into the camp of hating the Jacksonville Jaguars next year.
Oh yes, yes. Yeah, I was a Trevor fan. I was like, all right, he's good. Yep, nope. I'll be going there, wearing my Buck stuff, holding my sign. 3-14. Get ready for it.
And I think it's going to take me a while to get over your implication that Baker Mayfield is the son of Peter Pan.
Anyways, leave Baker alone.
You said it. You said it.
It's my man. That's my quarterback. My T.O. imitation. That's my quarterback.
Well, a team that you used to say such fondness over, the New England Patriots, big story of the coaching off season. They knew who they wanted. They made the big splash, and they brought Mike Vrabel home. This is a guy kind of like, I guess similar to the Mike McCarthy situation. He sat out a little while, waited for the right job, and sure enough, the Patriots opened up. They bring him home, and not only do they do that, they bring home Josh McDaniels as well. One of those classic hires, individuals that can't hack it as a head coach, but excels as an offensive coordinator. So what do you think of this kind of double homecoming, as it were?
The Patriots needed to do something, man. And I feel bad for Gerard Mayo because I think he got a raw deal. I think he got a raw deal. Yeah. But like I said, there were things said that, things in the locker room weren't that great. So when you can bring, Mike Vrabel, of Patriot Super Bowl lore, not only a quality, linebacker, but a touchdown catching machine, then you're going to bring him in. And the guy had success in Tennessee. He was a perennial playoff coach. So let's be real. The guy can coach. So, and yes, you bring back Josh McDaniels.
One of, if not the only product off the Belichick tree that has had success in that area, mind you.
The only branch that had life in it. The other one just dead. The only branch that had life, that bared any kind of fruit. And then you have another one, Josh McDaniels. That fruit was dead and rotted right off the bat. So sad. So sad. Went through the AFC West and just shat the bed.
Yeah.
So,
that's true. He had multiple jobs out there.
Both jobs in the AFC West. So too bad he couldn't get the Chiefs job. All of us in America would be a totally different thing, and we'd be feeling better right now.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you'd be the biggest Chiefs fan in the world because you'd just be awaiting the downfall.
I'd be like, oh, man, don't worry. McDaniels is going to burn this to the ground real quick. Get ready. So, at the end of the day, good.
That being said, however, he is quite good as in the role of offensive coordinator. So do you see that particular hire as big stock up for Drake May? No,
and like you said, that's what I was going to touch on that. Like what you said, some guys are meant to be head coaches. Some guys are just meant to be coordinators. And, if you can go 20, 30 years in the league and be a great coordinator, then do it. You're going to get paid. And I think that's what he is. He's a great offensive coordinator. Now he's got Drake May, who's, big, strong arm, can move a little bit. He's kind of a mix of Brady Bledsoe in that way, big, tall, strong, can throw the ball, can move a little bit. It's just going to be rebuilding this offense. There's a lot of holes. They're going to have to, build it from scratch. They've got a couple pieces, not much. Defensively, they're not bad. Like I said, probably some more pieces, but I think they've figured out this is the guy, Vrabel and McDaniels, and if these guys can't get them to at least 500, then I don't know what to tell you.
Two-part question. One, do you think this is Belichick 2.0 and Kraft's going to hand the keys over to Vrabel? You choose where to spend on, you choose who to spend on, etc., etc. And two, if that's the case, where is he going to spend on? Is he going to bulk up the defense because that's his expertise? Or is he going to build up this defense that's already there, which is fairly respectable, and just spend hog wild on an offense, giving Drake May something he can work with?
I don't know if Vrabel wants to be the guy like Belichick and do it all like that. I think he'll want to have a say, but I don't think he wants to be that guy. I think he just likes to coach. So I don't think he's gonna. I think he'll have a say in what he wants, but I don't think he's gonna be the end all to end all. And I think what he's gonna say is, this defense, it's got good parts. We can fill in some things, but we need offense. We need to really figure out what this offense is. And at that point, he's going to ask Josh, what do you think this offense can be? So I think they'll spend a bit on the offensive side, because for the last couple of years, that's what people have said. Defense is solid, but they can't score a lick.
Yeah, putrid.
Truth.
Another homecoming, and this one, I mean, Robert Saleh was freed of the Jets' toxicity in mid-season, so he's had some time for the stench to leave his inner and outer self, but now he gets to go home to the Niners, a team that his success led him to getting the Jets coaching job. He goes home, and I mean, the defense wasn't necessarily the problem last year. It was McCaffrey's health. It was Debo's health. It was Purdy regressing. May or may not have anything to do with those two factors. Ayuk got hurt and only played half a season. So I don't necessarily know if the defense was the problem, but certainly this is take two to reestablish Saleh as himself for whatever's next in his career.
Another guy who was waiting to, interview for Jacksonville and kind of got screwed by Liam Coen. So I'm sure he loves the Jags too. So, well, you know what? The Niner defense, not horrible, but it didn't have that edge that they had when Saleh was there. Because if you compare the defenses when Saleh was there, that defense was fierce. That was a very fierce defense.
Well, to that point, who do you think was more credited to the edge the Niners defense had, Saleh or DeMeco Ryans during his tenure?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think the defense changed that much in between DeMeco and Saleh. Saleh was there. Saleh, basically got handed the keys and said, okay, well, we're going to continue. We're going to continue what we do. And I didn't think there was much of a drop-off. Now, Saleh leaves, and, yeah, you've got the parts, but they're just – there was something missing. So I think bringing him back is going to be good. I think those guys are going to feel a little rejuvenated. Yeah, they might, shore up some pieces here or there, but I think it's great. And he's going to get that defense, back to what it should be, which should be a top 5, top 10 defense.
Yeah. And will that be enough to get them back to where they need to be, or are they destined for a situation like, okay, the defense is great, but this offense can't figure its own problems out, so that great defense is just going to be on the field too long?
Well, that's what it's going to be. This offense, don't forget, their window is closing. Like you've got to figure out what this is going to be. The biggest question is, are you going to pay Brock Purdy? Don't forget they've got to figure that out. Is he going to be the first $60 million man?
Yeah.
If you're going to pay him that, then your offense takes a hit because you have less money to allocate to that offense.
Another year like this past one, and if they do keep him, they'll get him on a substantial discount, unless they're just stupid like the Cowboys and give him $60 million anyway.
Well, they've already said that he's their guy. And now, he had an off year, but you could sit there and say, well, Debo was hurt. You had to deal with the Ayuk situation. Running backs were rough. So you had to deal with that too. So can you blame it all on Brock? you could legitly sit there and say, well, I don't think it was all Brock's part, but yeah, he didn't play great either. So do I think he's a $60 million quarterback? No, I don't. If you told me you wanted to pay him 52, 53 mil, okay, I could see that, because unfortunately this is the league. When you're a starter and if you've played well enough, you get to be the flavor of the month, the next highest paid quarterback until somebody else steps in. So
you'd think millionaire and billionaire sports owners would be a bit more penny pinching, but that tends to prove false when it comes to paying quarterbacks.
well, no, exactly, because that's one of those things where it's like, well, if you got a quarterback and he's getting you wins, that's playoff games, that's extra games, that's money. So some guys are of the ilk you got to spend to make. So we'll see what happens. But I think bringing him in as a defensive guy, bringing him back, I think is a smart move.
Now, I won't have quite the fervor that you had with Liam Coen. However, I don't think Gus Bradley. I think he's just taking the fall for a bad Colts season. A bad or an average Colts season. It certainly could have been a lot worse. I probably expected it to be a lot worse at multiple
Mm-hmm.
times during the season. But I don't think he was the problem. This defense has pieces. And the fact that we haven't had pass rushers for 3, 4, maybe 5 years now, I think he got enough out of his defense that he could have. So just to let him go and bring in Lou Anarumo from Cincinnati, I'm probably butchering his last name, but to make this swap for a guy that oversaw a Bengals defense that was absolutely horrendous. They picked it up a little towards the end of the season, but I almost argue the Bengals' drive at the end was just due to the fact that nobody could guard Jamar Chase. I don't understand the move here. Why are you making a change for the sake of making a change?
You've got to add, that's an organizational situation right there. I don't get the move either. So that's a GM owner situation there. So what did they see or feel that prompted them to make the change? I think their defense kind of kept them in games for a good chunk of the
Yeah.
season, but I guess they felt that maybe a new voice and a voice from a defensive coordinator who was pretty bad is the way to go. So
Yeah.
so you're telling me that now all of a sudden you guys are going to put up 50 points a game and give up 53.
Yeah. I would be ecstatic if we were giving up 50 points a game, regardless of what we're giving up. I would be ecstatic if we're scoring 50, just because that means AR has turned into something respectable.
I don't know. I don't understand the move. So maybe there was some stuff that we don't know. I can't give you an answer, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this defense looks like this year. It's going to be funny where they spend.
You could be onto something with it being an organizational issue because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Jeff Saturday till the day I die, but that was definitely a little bit of a head scratcher, the head coaching decision. Now, I don't know that Lou Anarumo has any kind of connections to the Colts franchise. I don't think he does. I certainly don't recognize his name out of the last 25 years. I've been a fan, and that's so I don't know what loyalty Ursay would have to someone like him.
Dude, I think I think it's time Ursay just sells this thing or,
Yeah.
kind of just gives it to somebody else, because there have been some questionable moves through the years that have kind of been like.
He's another Jim Dolan. They
he's a nicer Jim Dolan.
Yeah, nicer Jim Dolan.
Nicer Jim Dolan. I don't get it. Like I said, we're going to ask this questions, and if that defense is giving up 30 something points the first 5 or 6 games, then there's going to be a head scratching aplenty. So
yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, I think it's something organizationally that they felt a change needed to be made. I would have concentrated more on the offense for sure, kind of protecting AR and figuring out if AR is going to be my guy. But this I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy though.
but we'll keep Jim Bob Cooter and we'll live with Steichen calling running plays for AR, even though he gets hurt every time he tucks the ball and goes. We won't question
Good
that
old
though.
Jim Bob Cooter, my boy, Jim Bob Cooter.
Anyway,
Dude.
I mean Bradley has a track record. Very successful defense in Seattle. Jacksonville wasn't great when he was there, but he did build up the defense. And then our defense was very much water into wine every year because there just wasn't that much to work with. I don't understand where this guy has a track record that Bradley didn't.
So are you telling me that by week 8 or 9 we're gonna have the same conversation in which you're standing on the edge?
I might wear my Panthers hoodie for the rest of the season if we're at that point.
So you're telling me let's say you're 3-6, are you wearing the hoodie?
Oh, if we're 3-6, oh yeah, for the rest of the season on our show, I will be wearing the Panthers for the rest.
Are you getting a Bryce Young jersey?
No, I won't do jerseys. No. Jerseys are for a full drop everything and move.
A full commitment. Full commitment. Okay.
So jerseys ain't cheap.
You can buy those ones off those other sites, man. Don't worry, you can find them.
Yeah,
so you're telling me
we've certainly done that in our lives.
So you're telling me 6-11? 6-11 is that the jump point?
No. I won't do I won't do that kind of jump point in season. I'll wait till the off season for something.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know if you were just gonna mid-season say, "Forget this, I'm out."
Real quick before we sign off, we'll touch back on the Bears because they bring in Dennis Allen to lead the defense. This actually might be a good move for Dennis Allen because that defense is not it has some pieces, so could be a decent move.
Yeah, like it didn't. He tried his hand in New Orleans. It didn't work out. Unfortunately, that's just a whole other mess, and we've talked about that. So I think he gets back to his roots. Defense, and just this could be good. That defense has a lot of good pieces to it. This team, like I said, is primed for some good stuff. So I think they'll shore up some of the pieces on the defense, and I think they could be really good.
Yeah, it would be really fun to pick the Bears as the team to rise for next season. It just sucks that they've got such a tall task ahead of them in the standings.
Well, they do, but a lot, like I said, especially within that division. Like I said, number 1 is Minnesota. Does Sam Darnold come back? Nobody knows. If he doesn't, I think they're winning. They could be a 10-11 win team based on the talent. Then you've got Green Bay. They're good, but again, maybe a 10-11 win team at best. And then you got the Lions. Coordinators are gone, but we feel they still have got the talent and such and the mental makeup to probably be a 12 or 13 win team. So they could be a wild card team.
Well, Bucks McGee, a lot of new faces and new places, except for one very ominous selection. Sure, take us off air with your final thoughts on the NFL coaching carousel to kick off 25.
Ben, congratulations. Bears are going to probably be a team to reckon with. Aaron Glenn, hey, I guess you got to go home. Got to go home. Dallas fans, I feel bad for you, but who knows? Maybe Shot's got a little something, little juice can get you to some respectability. Oh, and the Jags, get ready. 5-12. I'm ready.